Hey everyone, we're looking at revision for linear equations for our exam. So we've got a few subtopics we'll be looking at today: solving equations, X and Y intercepts, plotting graphs, finding the gradient with a few different methods, and some special graphs. Let's start off with solving equations. Let's try nice and simple. Let's start off. Pause the video, have a go. How'd you go? Remember, you want to isolate the pronumeral. You want to find what the value of x is. What is the first thing you'll do? You need to work out what is the relationship between -6 and x. What is happening between the two of them? We know that if the 6 and the x are close to each other, we know they're being multiplied. That's what we show in mathematics. They're being multiplied together. We need to go, what is the opposite to remove the -6? That is in fact dividing, is the opposite of multiplication. Now remember, they'll be fantastic. We've removed the -6, but we have to do the same to the other side of the equal sign. So whatever we do on one side, we have to do to the other side. Now that we've got that, we can now rewrite the equation. -12 divided by -6 is 2. That's how you work out the unknown. Try the next one, a little bit more difficult. Pause the video and have a go. How'd you go? Remember, we're going to first start off with the one that is the least closest to x. A really great analogy that I just heard was you pretend that they're in the same house, and who is the one that is the least attached in this scenario? Not the one downstairs, which is 5, but the next door neighbor, which is 7. So we're going to remove the 7 first. What is the opposite of +7? We know that is take away 7. But the deal is, whatever we do on one side, we must do on the other side. Once we've done that, we know that we can eliminate these two. Just note I did put the addition sign there because we know that the x divided by 5 is in fact positive. And we now are left with the following equation after we've eliminated that. We've got x divided by 5 minus 3 minus 7 is -10. Next up, we now want to remove the fella downstairs, which is 5. What's the opposite of dividing? We know that is multiplying. So we're going to multiply this by 5. Whatever we do on one side, we must do on the other side. They get eliminated. We have x is equal to -10 multiplied by 5, which is -50. And just a neater way of looking at it, you can see it's been done below. Please note the equal signs are all in the same row. You may wish to box your answer. The working out is so important as well. Now in some scenarios, you may actually have to substitute the values of different pronumerals to work out an expression. So remember, the difference between an expression and an equation is that an expression does not have an equal sign. So with this expression here, we're going to substitute a equals 4, b equals 2, and c equals 5. Make sure you show your proper working out, pause the video and have a go. How'd you go? Let's have a go. So I'm going to show my working out for this expression. Make sure I put the equal signs all lined up on the corner. I'm now going to substitute the values of a is equal to 4 over here and b is equal to 2. I'll put them in brackets just to show you where I've substituted them. And please note again, the 4a means 4 times a. Brackets what a is equal to and what b is equal to will be placed in there. I will color code them. Now you want to do the working out in the next line. Put a new equal sign. 4 times 4, 16. 2 times 2 is then 4. Now you want to add them together. 16 plus 4, 20. You may wish to box the answer. Next up, you may sometimes be given an equation and it may go, please fill the table in. In this scenario here, you have to do, again, a bit of substitution. So we'll do one example, or if you're feeling confident, feel free to pause the video and have a go now. So I'm first going to work out what is the y equal to when you know that your x is -2. We just have to do a bit of substitution. So I'm going to say when x is equal to -2, we want to work out what y is equal to for this equation. Okay, now Let's do a bit of substitution. I'm going to substitute what our x is, which is -2. I'm going to put in a bracket so you can see that's where I've taken it from. Take away 2 from that, and that gives you -4. So we know that in the scenario where x is -2, we know that your answer for y would be -4. You just now have to repeat that for the following values of x, so you can work out what would the y be in these scenarios, and this table will then allow you to do other things as well. So have a go now. Take a look at these answers. Is this similar to what you got? Let's look at the next question. We now need to plot that same equation on this graph. Please note with the graph that you just needed to refer back to these coordinates and plot them in. Have a go. Alright, we all know the first coordinate. If you don't remember, I'll just write it down so you can see on the screen next to you so you don't have to keep flicking back and forth. Our first coordinate, we had our x value as -2 and our y value as -4. For this one here, you just need to first start off with the x-axis and go to -2, which is over here. And then you want to go to our -4 on our y-axis. You then want to bring them close together and see that they both meet halfway at this point. That is where we're going to plot the first coordinate. You want to repeat this for the next few coordinates as well. You may have got something that looks a little bit like this. I apologize, my stylus does not write the neatest and my lines aren't perfectly straight. We'll notice that since it's a linear equation, the line will continue in this tangent, and you'll notice that the first one is where the x coordinate is and the second one is where the y coordinate is. Next up, we're looking at gradients. Gradients are essentially just the slope of the line. In this case, it's positive, it's going upwards. You may have a scenario where your line or your equation actually plots downward as negative. How do we work that out? There's a few different equations. You may wish to use the y minus 1, y minus 2 divided by x minus 1, x2 minus x1. There's also rise over run, but I'll show you all of them. So in the scenario here, you've been given your coordinates visually and you know what your x and y coordinates are. All you have to do is just a bit of substitution once we know the formula. And the formula just states to us that we need to first find and choose our x and y coordinates, our first set and our second set. So for our first one, we're going to find what is y2, which will be 6 in this scenario here, and we substitute that in. Same with y1, which is on the bottom here. And then we do the same with the x's. We put them down on the bottom. Please note that they are being subtracted, so you may have scenarios where you have two minus signs. Remember, if the signs next to each other are the same, they are positive. If they're different, and you've got maybe, for example, negative and a positive on the top, that would mean that you actually have a negative. Just swap it over, okay? Now that we've got that, we go 6 plus 2 is 8, 2 plus 2 is 4. Please note you will have your equal signs on different lines here, and your answer will be equal to 2. Another way of doing this is rise over run. So in this scenario here, you basically just have to count how much is it rising by and how much is it running across by, really the y axis. Now to work out the rise over run, you want to work out how much it's rising by first, which is 8, which is shown in the green over here. And then we know that it actually runs across by 4, which is on the bottom in blue. So you just have to count how many it jumps across by. And we know that 8 divided by 4, this is a nice fraction, is giving us 2. Please note if the fraction isn't perfect and your question in the exam says that you can keep it as a fraction, that's fine. So you can just leave it as, if it's an improper fraction, you can leave it as such. Now you've got your 2 over here. And if you notice with your previous example, we did the same set of coordinates and you got the same answer, just using a different equation. Let's move on to some x and y intercepts. You may wish to do this in a different means by plotting like I did before, where you actually worked out the coordinates and plotted it. However, there's another method. You can just work out the x and y intercept in some scenarios. So for this one here, how on earth do we do that? There's two things you need to remember. For your x-intercept, your y is equal to 0. When you're working out your y-intercept, you just have to substitute your x to 0. So I'll show you what it looks like. Let's work out the X-Intercept first. You may want to pause and try substitute it before I do. Accident, so I'm going to quickly get rid of that. I've tried to work out the Y-intercept instead. So up here, I'm going to write Y, which will soon turn into a 0, 2x plus 4. Now I'm going to swap the Y into a 0. I'm going to run out a bit of space over here, 2x plus 4. This should now look familiar. You're going to try and rearrange this to work out what the x value is. So we're going to put the minus 4 onto one side over here because we're trying to remove the plus 4. We are now left with the following. We're going to now move the 2, which is being multiplied, so we're going to divide them by both sides. And I really am running out of room, sorry for the mess. You will notice the x is on the other side, which is completely fine. Minus 4 divided by 2 is minus 2. So we know that when our y is equal to 0, our x coordinate is going to be minus 2. We now have ourselves the first set of coordinates. So our x coordinate goes first, and our y coordinate will be 0 in this scenario here. I've just written over something. We're going to do the same for the y-intercept. Have a go. How'd you go with working that out? I'll show you on the next page what your answer may have looked like for your y-intercept. You can see over here, we've just substituted when x is equal to 0, we've put that in, and we got a y coordinate of 4. We now just need to place them on the graph. So I've plotted them across here, and I know this line's going to continue because it's a linear equation. Lastly, we're going to look at some special graphs. Let's look at these really quick special graphs. Now remember, in these scenarios here, we know that all the coordinates in these spots are finding that our y coordinate is 2 at each spot. We know that's y equals 2. And next up here, in every scenario around this line here, we know that the x coordinates are minus 4. Just have a bit of practice getting used to these different graphs. I hope this has helped. Remember to reach out to your teachers proactively and keep practicing and reaching out for any support you need. Good luck, everyone.